An Old Cold Grave. A Lane Winslow Mystery, Book 3. Written by Iona Whishaw. Narrated by Marilla Wex. Dedication. To my husband, Terry Miller, supporter and reader extraordinaire. Chapter 1. It wasn't quite the first day of spring, but the air had a softness, a promise of coming warmth, that made the people in King's Cove want to do things. Tidy up the garden, go through the sock drawer, fling open the windows to air out the house. Nothing in the splashes of sunlight stretching across the dormant gardens suggested that it was a good day to be confronted with the spectre of death. Gwen Hughes, a woman in her 50s who had lived in the same house since she was a child with her sister Mabel and their mother Gladys, stood in the root cellar, scowling in the dim light thrown by the single electric light bulb hanging from the wood joist on the ceiling. Her gaze was directed at the wooden shelves that lined either side of the cellar. Vegetables and fruit in tall blue-green glass canning jars stood on the top shelves, and jams and jellies in small jars occupied the bottom shelf. On the other side, wooden boxes containing root vegetables and apples were arranged along two planks that kept them above the dirt floor. A bowl of eggs sat nearest the door. There was a funny smell, and it was this that was causing Gwen to search accusingly among the jars for the culprit, the eggs having already been exonerated. No one had given the place a good going over since the previous fall, when most of what was in there had been laid away to keep the Hughes women fed over the winter. Much to the surprise of Gwen and Mabel, it was their octogenarian mother who had suggested the purchase of a small refrigerator a couple of years earlier, but they found very little use for it besides storing milk and setting butterscotch puddings, a great favourite of hers. The rest of their provisions they kept in the root cellar, as they had for over 40 years, with no difficulty at all, thank you very much. Gwen pulled jars of runner beans forward and shone her flashlight into the dark behind them, and with a small, victorious aha, she found carrots labelled 1944 that they had not gotten to within the year as they ought. "I told her," she said out loud. She took off her woolen pullover, set it on a box of apples, and began to rearrange the jars, moving those they had canned the summer before to the back. There were 4 jars of carrots from 1944, 3 years before. She didn't like to waste them, but didn't like to eat them either. 1 year, that was her rule. She put them on the floor by the door and went back to her arranging. As she worked her way along the shelf, she identified one element of the smell: vinegar. At the backmost corner she saw where the difficulty lay. Part of the sod roof had fallen through the beams that made up the wood frame of the cellar and broken several jars. Pickled beans and beets and some canned carrots lay quietly mouldering on the shelf among the broken shards of glass. Feeling sheepish about how quick she was to blame her sister, she removed all the sound jars, stacked them on shelves on one side, and contemplated the damage. The glass would have to be swept up and the sod repacked. Perhaps Robin could come and reinforce the roof a bit. She knew she or Mabel could do it quite well enough, but old Robin Harris would be hurt not to be called out for this sort of thing. Gwen pushed open the cellar door, and the family's 2 cocker spaniels rushed from where they were lying at the front of the house to the top of the steps, wagging expectantly. "Get along with you," she said, waving her arms at them. In the mudroom she found what she was looking for: a dustpan, a small whisk broom, and a pair of leather gardening gloves. "Mabel," she called into the kitchen, "the bloody roof has sunk on the back side of the root cellar and broken some jars. You didn't notice it, I don't suppose, last time you were in there?" Mabel looked up from where she was kneading bread. "And I suppose if I had, I would have left it like that for someone else to clean up," she said. "And mind the eggs when you're in there. I put them up on the left next to the potatoes." "And I found 4 jars of carrots from nearly 3 years ago. I thought we agreed we had to get to the vegetables within the year. I don't know why you bother canning carrots anyway. We have a whole box of them."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?